Um, I'm Julia. I've been in the I've been in the craft industry now for about 20 years. I originally started in art activity for kids. So coloring is something that I absolutely love to do and have been doing for years and years and years, and I'm so happy that everybody else is getting into it. I've been with Chameleon Pens for the past 4 years, and right from the very beginning in the development phases of it, and I have to tell you, it's a fantastic product for coloring, and I'm going to explain all the reasons why. One thing I don't know, unless you were under a rock this Christmas, you probably realized everywhere you went there were coloring books. So yeah, they're everywhere, which is fantastic. I brought a few of my favorites, but this is something all these people who really felt they wanted to be creative, maybe didn't feel like they were crafters per se, but were comfortable with coloring because they colored when they were kids. They've seen all these great articles out there about how coloring is relaxing, it's very therapeutic, so then it's now socially acceptable to color. So if you were an adult before picking up a coloring book, people are like, what's wrong? Now it's totally on trend, so it's great that way too. So, but now what's happening is I call these folks are quickly becoming colorists. You know, we have people who did scrapbooking and they're scrapbookers, and people who now are coloring are becoming colorists. It's a way that they can be creative, feel like they're an artist, but not even being able to draw a stick figure. So it's a great outlet for people creatively. This is a wonderful thing for us in the craft industry because it's bringing in a lot of new people into crafting, which most likely wouldn't be into crafting, but have sort of fallen into it due to, hey, I want to try coloring. So everybody that was out there this Christmas, you probably know them all that got these, they now all need coloring supplies to color with, which is fantastic. And a lot of people would start with maybe grabbing a colored pencils is a very easy way to get into coloring. They might be grabbing the kids' Crayola markers, they might be anything they get their hands on to start with. But what I believe is starting to happen is they're very quickly becoming more sophisticated, or will, with their coloring. If you remember back in early 2000, late 1990s, when the scrapbooking trend just started, and I know I had like a book, and I had some colored paper, and I had some deckled scissors and some photo corners, and I was set. And then very, very quickly, that whole industry changed. Everything became much more sophisticated. And we had different die cuts and different papers and different books and different. So I think we're going to see a little bit of that trend in coloring, where people now are starting to want different types of book, different surfaces, and definitely different mediums to color with. They're going to want to start taking their coloring to the next level, and that's where Chameleon Pens are fantastic for. And the reason why with Chameleon Pens, and I don't know if you're not familiar, I'm just going to give you a quick down low on them. Chameleon Pens are an alcohol-based marker. So alcohol ink is really more intense in colors. It dries very, very quickly. It gives you almost a beautiful, almost like an airbrushed type finish to it. It doesn't get really streaky, and it really gives you some beautiful effects. What we've done with Chameleon Pens is we actually have a marker pen that allows you to adjust the color tone of the ink. So these are an ordinary marker, but then we can kick it up a notch, and we can actually have this marker allow you to go from a light hint of a tint of blue all the way back to the pure color. And where you're going to use this is to be able to get depth and dimension, to get highlights and shading. One of the things that is wonderful with these pens is you can use them like an ordinary marker. And I actually bring these two out as an example. This is coloring flat. So this is basically just strictly coloring like a straight marker pen. And then here I use the pens to get some depth and dimension, some highlight and shading. I'm going to show you how I did that. But you don't have to do just one or the other. You can mix a combination of the two in between. The concept is it allows you to do more with less. So I'm able to get a color gradation like this by using one pen, rather than having to use 2 or 3 pens. One of the key things too, because you're only using the one pen blend, I can get into some of them. I love to show this one because I'm working on these. I can get into some of the tiniest spaces. I don't know if anybody got these little bitty ones. These ones are fantastic, but a lot of times they're very difficult to get into these little tiny spaces to be able to get depth. So if I look at it, it'll be the right side up. Okay. So to get into these little spaces, to get depth and dimension and highlights and shading in these tiny little spaces, these pens can do that. And that's where, with the intricate coloring that people are doing in adult coloring, these are ideal for that. The other thing is, quite frankly, it's wonderful because it's very affordable. These pens are refillable, the nibs are replaceable, so it is an art tool that you're going to have for life. And this is our 20 pack. We sell them individually. We sell them in 5 packs. We sell the 20 pack to start with, and then this year we introduced 30 new colors. So there's actually 50 colors in the line. That's pretty much where we're going to top up, like top out. We don't need any more colors than that. It really covers the gambit, and I'm going to show you that. If you are wanting to get somebody into the system, we have 5 packs, but any other vendors that'll tell you that have carried them in their store, this is the #1 seller. It seems counterintuitive. People will think, oh, people want to try with a lower price point. People just go and tend to take the big one. The reason why is we designed this around the color wheel. So it gets you started with all the colors that you need. And then when you want to sort of branch out a little bit more, you can go into, maybe I want a little bit more of a muted sage green. We're going to show you how to color combine to make your own colors, so you can do an awful lot with this one set. But sometimes people want to take it to the next level, and then they want to get the big set. And we have these on the booth here too, but this is our 50 pack, and it also has a colorless blender and a detail pen. So there's 52 pens in total. It comes with the case as well. There's even a hardcover case. I'll put that over the end so you can see what it all looks like together. But so that is also, I said I would mention this early on for those of you who already buy it. Counterintuitive for me. We currently sell the pastel, the primary, the earth tones, and the cool tones. That's your 20 pens. That's what's inside this set. Okay. The new pens that are coming out, and they'll be shipping in April, are the gray tones, more skin tones, because there are skin tones in the pastel set. We have warm tones, we have floral tones, blue tones, and we have the nature tones. So you can buy these in individual 5 packs if you already own this. And the large kit, the case itself empty, will be available too to people to purchase. So some people might want to just, stick with this, and then as they start to add stuff, they might pick up a 5 pack of skin tones if they do more faces and hair, and then maybe they want a bigger case. So we wanted to make it a bit more modular. But your mainstay will always start with this, and that's a great way to lead your customers to. Again, they're available open stock. You can buy every pen individually if you want to. Here we show you all of them together, and I'm going to show you some color cards today. This is one of our items. Ink refills are all available. Nibs are replaceable. We even have little tweezers. And then I'm going to show you the color cards shortly. So we have the whole new line over at our booth. We're at booth 2811. So if you want to come see us over there. But I'm just going to cover some basics on what a Chameleon pen is and does, and then show you how to utilize that in adult coloring, and actually how to teach folks and teach a class the versatility of this pen and why they want to use these pens for adult coloring. So to start with, a Chameleon pen, when you first look at it, it tends to look like a really big pen. You're like, what? It's actually a pen in 2 parts. So this is the mixing chamber. This is where all the magic's going to happen that allows us to adjust the color tone of the ink. But before we show you that, we'd like to always start off with just the one base pen. It's just a really good quality marker pen. It's double-ended, so one pen is a bullet nib, and the other pen you've got is a brush nib, okay? And it's marked on either side. There's your brush, there's your bullet, the nibs are replaceable, the inks are refillable. When you first get this home, the one thing we do suggest with the brush nib, because when they're packed for you, it does have a little bit of a laminate coating around the nib to protect it. Just color with it a little bit to soften it up. When you're demonstrating for people in the stores, I always put the pen in their hand and let them try it. I explain to them, this is a super soft Japanese brush nib. If you're used to more of a bigger rubbery type nib that's designed a little differently, this is more like a paintbrush, so just bear that in mind. You're a little bit more gentle with it. It is softer and it feels more like a paintbrush. And the reason why it's like that is we do need this nib to be absorbent. most markers are designed to not hold the color in the tip of the pen. You don't want them to. You don't want color contamination, but that's actually the way our pens work. That's the fantastic part about it, is it absorbs that toning medium evenly and it releases it back out. So the one thing I say to people is, if you took this home and the only thing you ever did was just color with this like a regular alcohol-based marker pen, you're going to like it. It's got all the properties. It's got the fine nib and the bullet nib. But where things really get different is when you add the mixing chamber in. So what I want to do is I take my marker and I put it inside of this mixing chamber, and those two nibs, I don't know if you can see that, the two nibs are actually touching. It's like they're kissing. Pull that off real quick. What happens is I've actually put the blending solution, this colorless blender, into the tip of this pen. And that allows me, and if you think about it, it's like watercoloring. It's like dipping your paintbrush in a watercolor. It allows me to go from a lighter color to a darker color. So as I'm starting to color, it's very, very light. It's basically almost pure alcohol at this point. And as I start to color, it starts to give you a little bit more color, and then a little bit more color, and a little bit more color. The more I color, it comes back to the base color that you're working with. Now, one of the things that's really important with these is just basic education. You know, any art tool, the first time you pick it up, you're not perfect at it. This is, again, an alcohol-based marker, so it works with any of the other systems. If you have Pro markers, Spectrum, they actually work fine together. So feel free to mix them together. The one thing we do like to say is that basically, if you've taken any of the certifications, if you know a certain system on how to use it, that's great for their system, but this is something that's totally different. So you would be doing yourself a disservice if you tried to make it do what the other systems do. The point of this system is different. It's allow you to get that seamless one-pen blend, to get into the small spaces. So if you kind of watch what I do, and I use it a little differently, you'll see really the versatility behind it. So I always say, start with beginner's mind. Think about it as it really is a whole new art supply, and then you can see what you can do with it. So I like to explain that using the leaves. And Nick, if I'm missing anything along the way, shout at me, because I'm trying to go fairly quickly. Oh, one thing that I do want to cover as well is if you're a vendor with us, we do have a vendor web portal that allows you to go in and get all these assets. So you can get the leaves, the little butterflies that we're, oh, mine died, little butterflies that we're wearing on our badges. We have make and take if you go to our booth. You can get a whole sheet of those so that you can put these out and you can teach people how to work with the pens. Another thing is paper. So let me just quickly address that, okay? You can use these with any of the alcohol cardstock. You can use them with alcohol paper pens, papers that are designed for alcohol. But the beautiful part about these is because we're doing a one-pen blend, we're not really most of the time having to put multiple colors on top. You can use ordinary photocopy paper. In fact, that's pretty much what I use most of the time. If I want to get a little fancier, I'll use like a 32-pound stock. And I show people this. This is like HP LaserJet. It's 32-pound stock, and I think somebody just ordered one in the last class we were in, and I think on Amazon it was like $10 or $12 for 500 sheets. So by all means, use the nice, expensive, the cardstock for your real good projects, but if you want to just do affordable demonstrations in your class and in your stores, just get the photocopy paper. And inkjets tend to work better most of the time because of it's a little bit more absorbent and the color won't smear as much. But rubber stamping, of course, is fantastic for this too. And then the way I deal with the coloring books that don't have really good quality paper a lot of times is I'll scan it for personal use only. I'll scan that picture and I'll print it out and color it on a little bit better quality. I can show you some of those later. I've done several of the Secret Garden pictures with chameleons, and I just print it out on a better quality stock, and that way I can use the alcohol pens with it. So hints and tips you can give to your customers that way as well. So let me just, I'm using the photocopy paper right now, and I want to be able to show you the versatility behind using the pen. So I'm going to use this, my YG3 green, and I'm going to go on my brush tip, and just so you can see all the differences, I'm going to color this with just coloring like a regular marker pen. So that's one way of using the marker where you get some really nice effects. You can still double down if you want to darken it. You can put multiple layers of the same color on top, okay? But where it gets kind of interesting is when you want to be able to create a little bit more depth and dimension. So now is where I'm going to kick it up a notch and put it into the mixing chamber. The longer you let this sit, the longer the blend will be. And in fact, on our website, we have this resource available as a download. It's clock times. We tell people, okay, color this. This is what the pure color looks like. If you fuse it for 5 seconds, here's what you get. If you fuse it for 10 seconds, here's what you get. If you fuse it for... So it's a really good learning tool for customers to sort of get their head around how long to fuse and the kind of results that you're going to get. Once they start to practice with it, I honestly tell you, I don't think I really blend longer than... mix it for longer than 10 seconds for most projects. A longer blend, you need to cover a much larger area. But then here's what we want to do is as we start from here, you start to see that light color. And you notice I don't need to color fast. This is supposed to be about relaxing. I remind people of this. So you don't need to go really quick. Just relax. And the color, it's almost like you just let it sort of happen on the paper. It just sort of naturally comes out. And you get this really nice, smooth, blended effect. Okay? Some people think, well, wait a minute, isn't it going to take me an awful long time if I have to fuse that every time? Well, I will tell you, it does not take any longer than if you're going to be switching between multiple sets of marker pens. So if I was to do that with 3 colors, I would be doing one layer, blending it together, then doing another layer, blending it together. Then so in time essence, no, it really doesn't take any longer. I actually find this relaxing because I can sort of sit and let it fuse a little bit. And then I go to color. So that's the key. Also, we tell folks one thing to do is to test off to the side, make sure that you really did fuse it. Sometimes people are in a hurry, and I will once again say that's not what relaxing the color is about. It's supposed to be too relaxed. So I'm using this at a side-by-side sort of motion. There's a lot of different ways you can do it. We have almost, I'm thinking it's close to 100 videos. I think the last time we checked, 99 videos on our Vimeo channel and also on YouTube that we go through in detail, even covering how to do fabric folds, how to do fur, how to do texture, how to do hair, face. There's all different types of videos that you can use to learn how to use Chameleon pens. So that's just your basic color blend. That's one way of using the pens. You can use it like an ordinary marker, and then you can use it like a basic color blend. There's one thing I do want to show you as well is that you feel free to use this like an ordinary alcohol pen. So if you wanted to do a multiple pen blend, being that I'm coloring this and then I want to go back and I want to color it with my green in here, and then I maybe want to go back and I want to blend in through here, feel free. You can still use it like a traditional alcohol pen system if you want to, okay? Or you can use it with a fuse, or you can do a little bit of both. And that's where things get neat, is that you can mix and match them together. So, give you an idea, I can actually change the color. So now, when you're explaining to your customers about doing more with less, this is where it really starts to get fun. I use one pen to be able to get that nice blend. Now maybe I say, you know what, I want to adjust the color of that green. So one way you can do that is you can start and just color flat right over top. So I'm going to do this side by side so you can see the differences. Just color this way. So here I'm using one of the yellows and I'm going right over top of that area that I did that blend. And you can see now how it's starting to adjust the color. It's going right over the green. So I'm keeping that pure yellow-orange that I've got at the top, right? But then I'm adjusting the color towards the bottom. That's one way of doing a color overlay. So I've got that orange, the yellow-orange at the top, and then I adjusted the color of the green. There's the real color of the green, and that's what it was over the overlay. Another way to do it is to fuse this. So we're still we want to keep that absence of color there, and we want to go over to the other area where, so you can see, I fuse that for just a few seconds, test it off to the side, and as I start to color, I'm keeping that top area light. I could have fused it even longer and really kept it very white at the start, very clear. So now we have autumn leaves. So you can see there's a slight difference between the two ways that you're going to do that. So that's one way of adjusting, doing color overlays, and that's another way of doing color overlays. So you're going to be able to adjust the color tonality there. Where's my lid? Here we are. So that's where it gets kind of fun, where you can start to do color overlays and then you can do in two different ways. But then you can also do two different colors, and I'm actually going to get a little funky with blues and pinks today. But you're going to get to see a blue and pink leaf. So if I wanted to do opposite color or different color blends, I can almost get an ombre effect by doing this. And I'm just showing this on leaves, but it's how you'll do applicably use these techniques inside of your other coloring books. So I fused my turquoise, so it's very light now, and I'm going to start off very light. I gave that probably about a 10-second fuse. And as I'm coloring down, I'm going to get back to the pure color of the marker. So I can keep it like that. This is where it gets kind of neat. I'm going to turn around, I'm going to use my peony pink, and I'm going to take the pink, and rather than going from light to dark, I'm going to flip this around. So I'm going to put the clear back over top here, so the blend will happen, and as I start to color, you'll start to see the pink appear. Diffuse that. So here's where you can get some really interesting color blends. And this morning we were doing classes, we were doing green with purple, we're doing green with red, so it allows you to get that seamless blend between the two colors. So somebody had mentioned that to me, Pantone Colors of the Year. There you go. The blend of the two? Okay, well that was BG3 for us, and that was PK4. Those are two of the new colors, peony pink. The blend together. We're totally on trend now. So that gives you an idea on how to sort of cross-blend colors as well. And the thing I like to mention is that we did this, if you take a look at the range, we did this range with just 2 pens. So when you start to explain to people what they're capable of doing with the 20 colors, let alone 50 colors, it starts to get a little bit mind-blowing. It's just that all the different things that you're capable of doing with the pen. So that's just ways that you can adjust the color, and you can blend colors and opposite colors, as well as even doing colors. This was actually the 2 greens in our system. So it tends to give you a lot of versatility behind it. So I wanted to show you that, and then some of the techniques that we've got for doing the adult coloring. If you've got any of these books, Leaves and Gardens, that's why I wanted to cover the leaves, because everybody loves to color leaves as well. We have color cards that you can see when you come to our booth, and just to give you an idea, because I'm give it context, I'm actually going to color some of our new color card designs. We came out with this because, one, a lot of people wanted smaller, more manageable projects to color. These are great, but they're bigger projects to cover. These are a little bit smaller, more manageable projects. And one of the problems that a lot of people have when they're trying to get very realistic coloring is, this morning's class, it was the other way, is just trying to understand where light source comes from and how to use that in your coloring. So that's why we came out with this concept of the color cards, was to be able to give people, for every design that's in this, of course I think I can find the watering can one, for every design that's in this, we have a color card, a corresponding color card to show you how to color it. So this way you're trying to say, okay, where is the light source, and where should it be highlighted, and where should it be shaded? So each one will show you. You get 2 of each of the same designs inside of here. There's actually, in the color card, there's 16 cards. They're designed for alcohol pens, and we show you how to color as a suggestion. If you're using any other system or any other colors, we also give you grayscale on the other side of the card. That way you don't have to necessarily think in our colors. So we give you both ways to do it. So the color cards right now we have are in 4 different designs, but we are coming out with new designs in May. One of them is just, my favorite's called Pocket Patterns, because it allows me to color different patterns. Let me just find out where I put those. I just have printouts on them. But they're just fun, repetitive patterns, because that's the kind of zen thing about the way people love to color now. So just some hints and tips, and when you're going to be showing folks just some interesting ways that they can use the pens to really, they'll be able to get it a little bit more if you're showing how to add depth and dimension. So I'm going to use the BG4, and basically what I want to do is show you how to, maybe just for a circle, how to get depth and dimension. So if you want to show folks how to do that, I'm using my brush nib right now. I'm going to get into the bullet nib with some fine areas too. Test it off to the side, and then you're going to find the darker colors maybe take a smidge longer to be able to blend out. But I want to start with this being a little bit light, and then as I start to color, I start to get a little bit darker, and a little bit darker, and then a little bit darker. So you can create dimension. Is that translating at all? You guys see that okay? Yeah? So this allows you to get really something simple like all the little dots and circles and things that you're doing can have some dimension to it. So pick out an area where you want it light and then just sort of work away from it. That's one way of doing some interesting dimension. Another way, if you want to create dimension like I've done here in the center, is to start at the center and work out. So anything that you want to make it look dimensional that way, what I do is I start at the center. So I'll fuse this for a couple seconds. So I very seldomly will go over 10 seconds, and then I always just do a quick test off to the side to make sure that it's clear. And so what I'll do is I'll start and I'll color this way, and then I'll just sort of keep coloring and blending outward. And then I get to the edge here. What's kind of neat when I do that as well, when I get to the edge, I might hang a little bit and just give it a little extra hit down there. So you see that adds dimension. The one thing that your customers will really like about this is they don't really have to think about, is that in the same color family? It's in the one pen. So it allows them to do a little bit more tricky stuff that they wouldn't be able to do if they were just coloring flat. So I'm just going to flip that around the other way and do the same thing on the other side. And this is something, if you get a chance to run by the booth and see Kathy and Alina are there, they're running our design, they're on our design team. See what I'm doing here too? I'd like to do this and follow along the edge in here to get even more dimension. So you're getting some interesting effects, and just play with it and you'll start to see. That's why I suggest a photocopy paper, because you just print them out and it's practice with them. These are refillable as well. So yeah, I'm saying go see it. If you see Elena and they're Kathy's teaching the face and hair class tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. if you guys are able to get, if you're in that or able to get a chance. And she's really great at helping understand light sources, as well as a lot of our videos that she does on that too. So drop shadows, I also wanted to show you that. So where am I? Legend. Look at, see, now this is where Julie should be putting her pens away. I'm trying to move quickly. So using the same pen to be able to sort of get a drop shadow to lift is the same principle. So what you're going to do is fuse, and I will mention again, you don't always have to fuse the pen. You can use it like an ordinary marker, but having that ability to also fuse it is kind of fun. So dark to light, and give it a quick hit again. And then fusing along this side, I'm just going to go from dark to light. Now again, I'm going to sort of hang in this area here, and then I'm going to just give this a little bit extra color along there, so that it makes it look like it has some depth and dimension and lift. There's lots of little tips and techniques. You could also see this one makes me think, okay, I might actually want it lighter here, and then work it out so that circle looks like it's dimensional. So playing with the light source, idea of where the light source can be patterns. You can kind of go anywhere with the light source. That's kind of where fun. You don't necessarily have to always have one area that there's one light source. And then just sort of hanging in that same area again, you get that sort of drop shadow in there. So getting the pens out there, getting them in people's hands, showing them how to use them, explaining the do's and don'ts behind the pens are important. It's a very interesting system in terms of what they can do with them. The only thing I always suggest to people to really make sure that they're aware of is the mistakes that they could possibly make is explain to them that gravity is what really helps you work. So you always want to keep your pen straight up and down. If you're sitting here and fusing like this going, why am I not, or if you're going upside down, you're probably like, oh, why is it not fusing? So the only things that people will do wrong is they will, one, maybe not make sure that the two nibs are in contact, or two, they're leaving the pen, you know, like this, and it's not going to make itself happen. Storing them, flat, usually we tell people to store them flat. And you know, we were talking this morning, you know, not really high heats, and a lady was saying, I live in one of the hottest places. I've had my pens for like almost a year and they're fine. So, you know, just basically treat them like a standard alcohol marker pen and you should be good. And they'll do pretty much everything and go on all the surfaces that all your alcohol marker pens go on. The difference is you have that ability to blend, which is really cool when you're working on something like wood. You can actually get a color blend on wood, and we've got some examples of that at our booth as well, because you don't have to do a multiple blend and try and mix it. You actually are going to blend right out on the wood. So that's cool. Did you have a question?
Actually, I have two questions.
Sure.
Your stamping, like, do you suggest like
Memento is the one that Kathy and the design team use. They absolutely love Memento. And then if you're going to go on something like other than paper, Memento Lux is the one they use, and then she uses a clear embossing powder on it. Not colored embossing powders because that can clog up the nibs. So, yeah.
The question is about how many charges do you get when you're from your alcohol to
Okay, so our first year was just us figuring out how long, you know, Kathy did colored all the time. It took her at least 6 months before she had to refill. There is 2.25 mils of ink, I think it is, in the pens. 3.2. Okay, so over 3 grams of ink in each of these, okay? And when you think about it, each time you're coloring, you're pulling from, if you're blending, you're pulling from both sources. So that's why it seems to last unusually long, because you're not strictly coloring with this. You're actually pulling from 2 ink reserves while you're coloring.